the show that I've been leaning back into. So one of the things I want to talk about that I care a ton about is relationships. I've spent a lot of years practicing relationships, and although if you'll ask my wife, I am definitely not perfect. It's something that I practice day in and day out. And so if you're in a relationship, it could be a romantic relationship, it could be boyfriend or girlfriend, a partner, a spouse. It could be a professional relationship, someone at work or in your business or in your family. But if you're in a relationship, which we all are, and it's imploding, it's on fire, it's in chaos, sometimes it's so overwhelming that like we don't even know where to begin. It's like I don't, and I've had this sometimes where I like walk away from a train wreck of an interaction with someone, and I'm like, I don't even know what happened. Like I don't even know what went wrong. I don't, like I'm just I've redlined, like all I see is red. And so this is a great, I want to offer you a tool to quickly diagnose and assess what went wrong and what's the issue. And so it's a way to kind of look through three different layers. So it's the three C's of diagnosing your relationship. So the first one is character. And sometimes this can seem like an old word or like an outdated word, but so the first place that something goes wrong is our character, and by that I mean like what's the stuff on the inside here. That could be anything from my beliefs and my values and my perspective to what kind of man am I, who am I, and how am I acting. And so that's the first place to start. Ask yourself, like, step away. Let's say we'll start with a significant other. Let's say your husband or wife. Things are not going well. Like, take some time, step away on a weekend, take the day, and maybe go on a hike or go off to a coffee shop and do some reflection and ask yourself, like, is there stuff going on in me that isn't right? Like an easy one is love. Like, do I have my love turned on? Am I communicating? Am I communicating? Or am I operating out of a place of love for this person? I don't think I just hit the mic. Am I operating out of a place of care and concern and kindness for this person? Like, do I have their best intentions at heart, or am I just in this where I'm in a bad place where I'm angry and I'm bitter and I feel like I'm competing against them and I just want to win and I just want to tear them down. So that, like, in any relationship, it's always easy to complain about the other person. But start with yourself, start with your character. And another way to think about this is in a cartoon or in a movie, right? We talk about the different characters, right? And there's sort of a profile to them, and sometimes there's an easy character sketch. Like, I used to do theater, and so when you take on a character to portray them, right, you kind of have a character sketch about, like, who is this person? What makes them tick? What do they like? What do they hate? So that's also another way of thinking about it. But it's the stuff on the inside. And so take a minute, do some self-reflection, be like, you know what? I think in part we're off because of some things that are going on with me, some baggage I have, some stuff I need to work through, some stuff I need to get right, because it's so easy to blame and to point the finger, but it starts with ownership. Jocko Willink talks about, the ex-Navy SEAL talks about extreme ownership. So start there. So that's the first one. Character. What's going on with me? The next way that a relationship is imploding, or the next cause to look at. So first lens, you do kind of a self-check. What's going on here? Next lens is communication, right? So, all right, I've got me, I've got this person. The communication is the bridge between us. That can be verbal, nonverbal. I'm listening, so I'm receiving. Communication isn't just talking, but it's, what am I getting from them? What am I giving to them? So communication is the bridge. So the next place is to look at, like, what's happening on our bridge as we've built this bridge between each other, and we're traveling on this every day. And I find that for myself and my relationships and with my wife, if my intentions are good, if my character is in check, and I can look in a moment where we had a bad moment and it was like, man, no, I meant the best. I love her. I care about her. I didn't mean to hurt her feelings. Then typically it's misunderstanding. I think 80%, if your heart's in the right place, 80% of the problems are miscommunication and misunderstanding. And that can be That can be verbal, that can be nonverbal. And so also that's the second thing, to pause and think about, like, okay, what are the words that we're exchanging? What am I saying, but what are they hearing? Oftentimes the thing that I'm saying is not the thing that person is hearing, and vice versa. I'm talking to someone, um, and that's where the miscommunication comes. They think they're saying something, but I'm like, whoa, I've got a different code book. I've got a different filter. And the way you're telling me this, like, is, I am not getting what you're throwing down. So the first one is character, do a self-check. Next one is communication. Look at that bridge. Do a comms check. Hey, are we understanding each other? Maybe this is just a simple misunderstanding. And third is chemistry. So if you've done a self-check in your heart, your attitude, what's going on here, and you're like, I had the best intentions. I promise, I meant no harm. I was trying to be nice. And then you're like, hey, and I did everything I could to listen to them and communicate what I meant. The third one is the chemistry. So I like to think of character as the content of what's inside me. Communication is that bridge between me and that other person, and then chemistry is the reaction, right? Like a chemical reaction. It's what happens because of that communication. So am if I am tired and going to bed, and I did some of the cleaning in the kitchen, and I say, and my intention is like, oh, we're going to help clean up the kitchen, and so I go to bed, but before I go to bed, I'm like, hey, I said to my wife, hey, would you clean the rest of the kitchen before you go to bed? And I meant that as like a teamwork thing, but the way it was communicated was like, hey, clean the kitchen. And it just does not land well. Then my intentions in the communication were fine. I actually maybe even said it in a way that was fine, but not understanding actually the way that was landing, maybe my tone of voice or my inflection. So the chemistry is like, what's the chemical reaction when you mix? And so that's the third thing to look at. Let's say in a in a relationship, let's say a significant other, again, a marriage, both of you, like, your heart's in the right place, you're communicating in a kind, respectful, clear way, but it's just things are still imploding. Then it's looking at, okay, what's our vibe, what's our dynamic? I think of chemistry. Don't think of chemistry just like, oh, like in the dating world, right? Like, oh, we have such good chemistry, and we like it, just this like sexual vibe. Like, that's certainly a part of chemistry, is like just vibing, but it's also just, hey, what's happening when we mix? Some of it was like in past relationships. Past romantic relationships, some of it was like, hey, we both had good character. We both were trying our best. We would spend hours communicating, right? And listening and working things out. And one thing my mom told me in some of my relationships that didn't work out, she's like, hey, sweetie, like, it just shouldn't be this hard this early on. Like, you guys are dating, and this feels like way too complex and complicated. So the chemistry, think about, hey, what's the dynamic at play here? Is sometimes there's nothing wrong with anybody or how it's going. It's like, hey, the way we're mixing, maybe one person is a lot more blunt, but they're not being unkind, they're just way more direct, and the other person is way more sensitive and didn't grow up in a family. I have to sneeze. Okay, sorry. The other person grew up in a family that dealt with problems just in a more indirect way, not passive. They just were more subtle. And so one person is hammering. Like, this is my family. We're just much more of a direct, a little more energy, a little more pop to it. So you just kind of roll up your sleeves and let people know where they're at. So, right, that could be, hey, there's nothing wrong with either of you. You're communicating fine. One's more blunt, one prefers more indirect. And so, but the mixture of those styles is just just sneezing. Here we go. So the mixture of those styles is just a train wreck. And so that's where sometimes, like, looking at the Enneagram, or I know some of these things come in style and out of style, but they're all helpful. Personality test, Myers-Briggs, Strengths Finders, Enneagram. I know everyone has a different preference, but those types of things can help. Like, oh, it's actually not. There's not actually a problem here. This is just the way we're designed, and our makeup is different. And so, hey, we begin to have empathy and understanding, and we begin to map out that oh, you're not actually trying to pick a fight with me when you're being blunt. You are just you're actually trying to express love, because in your family dynamics, love means when you have something to say to someone, you don't lie about it, you don't pretend, you just tell them what you're at, where you're at. And the other person saying, hey, actually, love to me means I wouldn't want to come at you aggressively and harshly. I want to like gently and subtly offer where I'm at, knowing that you'll pick it up. You'll catch the hint. Because in my family, we're able to kind of subtly pick up the hint, and so we don't actually need these really aggressive talks. We just kind of gently put something out there, and the other person like, oh, okay, that's what's going on. So if your relationship, in conclusion, if your relationship is imploding, or it's struggling, it's in chaos, take a beat and look through those levels. Look at your character. Look at what's going on here, your attitude, your behavior, your actions, the quality of person you are. Maybe you need to do some growing up and maturing. Then look at your communication. What's the bridge? What are you communicating through your words and your body language? And what are they communicating back? What are you hearing? And then chemistry. What's the reaction? What's the chemical reaction between you? And is there something going on there that it's nothing wrong? It's just the way you guys are mixing. And if you're not married, sometimes that's a place to say, look, we are just so different. Let's cut losses and move on. And if you are married, it's an opportunity to dig in. And then the bonus is commitment, right? Sometimes there's also the look of saying, I need to level up. I need to go all in here. I've been playing it safe in my marriage. I've been holding back. I've been defensive. I've been hiding. I've been kind of putting my efforts and my interests in other places. And my marriage needs 110% of my energy, my focus, and my commitment to level up, right? Like nothing, you don't master anything in life without the level of total dedication and commitment, and it's like, hey, treat your, the way that Michael Jordan or LeBron James or Kobe Bryant treated basketball, treat your marriage with that same level of like all out fierce dedication and commitment, and watch what happens. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments if this was helpful. Let me know your thoughts. Is there a relationship that you're going through that you've been trying to work out? I'd love to have more questions in the comments so that we can grab those and work with them on the next episode. Thanks a lot, guys.